My friends at G Fuel just launched a new flavor, Sour Phaseberry, and in celebration, my code ESPRESSO is now 30% off through Monday the 25th. If you guys are interested, check the link in the description below to get 30% off your order. With Season 4 coming in just a little bit of time and all sorts of posts being made from official channels in Call of Duty, there's a few things in relation to the Warzone map that have been poking up. Some rumors, some internal dev names being mistaken, and a handful of things in between. So today I figured we'd take some time and talk about Call of Duty in the sense about the Warzone map updates, past, present, and future, and what we could see happening, and maybe tie up any loose ends of discussion there may be in relation to that stuff going around right now. So some of this will be rooted in simple fact, some other stuff we discuss will be theory, but I wanted to cover some of the bases of the topic of discussion that you may have seen out there as of the last couple of days and fill you in on them. So today, let me know your thoughts as we go along. If you could see one location added into Warzone, a point of interest to POI, what would it be, where would you place it, and why would you add it? As well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not done so already. We'll have a big next few weeks here up on the channel as we ramp up towards Season 4 this week, the launch then following, and likely shortly after that, a bunch of Call of Duty 2020 content to discuss. So it'll be a big month and then some for Call of Duty, so if you're interested in staying up to date with all of that on a daily basis, make sure you stick it here. But anyways, let's jump into it. Now, I wanted to start with what was the catalyst for this video and what kind of stirred this discussion in my mind when we talk about topics here in this video. Recently, there was an update to the Call of Duty companion app, and if you've ever been on there, it shows your friends list activity, saying maybe somebody who's playing domination on Hackney Yard or something like that. But for players who checked it recently, and specifically the Warzone listings in particular, it would say that they may have had friends playing on the map of Donetsk 2. Now, to the average viewer, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, unless you're plugged into the world of Warzone and Call of Duty to the point where you know internal developmental names for maps. You may think to yourself, wait a second, is this something new? I've never seen that, because for the most part, you're right, the name is never really showcased in Warzone and anything on the public side of things. However, unfortunately, that's not actually the case. It's not a new map, or in a sense, a new map in the way that you may be thinking of it. And to compound on that, it's not a new map upcoming, but instead, a new map that we currently have. So for a little clarity, Donetsk is the internal development name of Verdansk, or the entire world of Warzone and Spec Ops. Donetsk, Ukraine was the real-world inspiration for the Warzone map, from things like the airport, the stadium, and so many buildings in between. The designs pulled in are almost identical to that of the real-world counterpart. It's kind of a fascinating comparison if you end up reading into it or looking it up. And of course, the entire story and the history of the city and its ruins now are a loaded read or story, which we won't go too much into detail on, but again, it's fascinating if you want to read up on it. But for the sake of what we're talking about in this video, it's just imperative to know that Donetsk, Ukraine was the main inspiration for the Warzone world, hence why in the files, the name of the map is verbatim Donetsk. But that said, what about the 2 on the end of the dev name? Why is it listed as number 2? Especially because we haven't seen any major POIs added in, we haven't seen anything that triggers a live event or anything, have we? Which the answer to that is no, but we also have seen a substantial update to the map, even if it isn't exactly what you may consider substantial. Now, this is where the recent bunker Easter eggs come into play. Whether you're considering Bunker 11 or the various above ground bunkers that you can get into with the red access cards, major key components, they were previously unavailable in the world of Verdansk. And if you had seen any of the footage from Warzone around the time of its launch, and when players ended up being able to, say, glitch inside those bunkers with the recon drones, beforehand there was nothing but just a small chamber in there that was kind of like, hey, there's a bunker here, but we don't know what's behind it. But now if you take a look at it, of course, if you go in with either the red access card or you go through the Easter egg to open up Bunker 11, there's a long hallway with a vast loot room at the end with the red access card bunkers, and of course, Bunker 11 is an elaborate maze in it and of itself. So where this 2 comes into play is that these weren't in the game as of last week. So while on the literal surface, there is not any changes made to the Warzone map, below ground there was. And not to mention, that's not the only map change that we saw here with this. And granted, the next part we talk about is small, it's still a map change that was altered in the game files and made accessible as of the last update as well. That being the fact that yesterday we talked about it very briefly in our secret changes video, but out by prison there is now a shack that houses an interesting Easter egg of the RCXD, or what is a pre-built RCXD. Right before it's completed, it has the chassis, it has the controller, it has the batteries, but it doesn't have the actual body wheels or explosives. And the thing we talked about in yesterday's video was the fact that that may be very curiously a small teaser for what Call of Duty 2020 could be, simply because in Infinity Ward mainline titles, there hasn't been an RCXD outside of the DS version of Modern Warfare 3. So for that to just be curiously placed in the middle of nowhere at a time when the very next Call of Duty title is rumored to be a Black Ops title and one going back to the Cold War roots, that's just kind of fishy. But again, that was another update to the map that was made and was not there beforehand. I've heard some whispers and chatter recently of people saying that there seems to be more moss on things by the dam as well, and that there seems to be some flowing water that is around there that wasn't there before, so that could also be thrown into the mix as well. But ultimately, when you compound that stuff on top of each other, it just makes a new map, which is why Donetsk 2 is something you haven't seen before. But again, why it's also nothing really out of the ordinary from what we've seen already. But that said, does that leave the prospect of further map updates out of the question? Absolutely not. This is where we now jump over into the speculation side of things, the theory side of things, and where none of what we talk about right now after this is confirmed, but it could be likely stuff that we end up seeing. Season 4 is right around the corner, and I think with something big being teased with that of the Bunker 11 Easter egg, a nuke in there, and of course the storyline coming together a little bit further, we might see something here as the launch of Season 4. Now, we also know that we haven't seen any real major point of interest or map updates. I mean, the map update that we just got was Donetsk 2, the first change since the launch of Warzone in over 2 months. So, if you ask me, I think we are due up for at least some sort of adjustment here that changes something up in terms of either adding a new location. I mean, seeing a nuke go off in downtown, getting rid of that entire area would be pretty cool if you ask me. And other theories that could be going around as well definitely have some plausibility and some merit behind them. Of course, while there's nothing that says, yes, they'll actually happen, it's not the craziest idea that we've heard. Now, if I were to guess on the very, very small end of the spectrum here, if we're saying the very least we end up getting, I'm expecting at least a further progression of the Easter egg come Season 4. I think that right now we kind of have hit that wall. I don't know if we'll end up seeing any progression further outside of just opening up Bunker 11, having the option to reboot the computers, having the option to view the nuke and press that shiny red button and get the MP7 blueprints. That might not be the case. Maybe this upcoming Tuesday with the final update for Season 3, maybe there's something that kickstarts something in the fast files that allows another part of that Easter egg to be interacted with. We'll have to wait and see, but at the very least, I'm expecting the narrative and the Easter egg and the storyline to progress a little further on the back end with what changes in the map. I am absolutely expecting Donetsk 3 to be in play come Season 4, whether or not that's something you can visibly see it in the COD Companion app listed as that, or if it's just kind of known since it will be something of a newer update there. At the very least, again, I'm thinking the Easter eggs here with it. I also think, though, that we could end up seeing some quality of life adjustments in terms of the smaller scale changes that would warrant a new variation of the map. There were whispers of new ways to scale Geo, since hillsides are apparently a super soldier's worst nightmare that I've heard about, including the likes of kind of like smaller trail paths instead of having to scale up actual rock formations. And I thought that was something that may have actually been making its way over into this last update here of 1.21, but having now played Warzone a ton, both in Plunder, both in Battle Royale, having gone up to those places where the Geo is still really bad, we'll say that, where you can't even climb the smallest rock surfaces or anything like that, or where a small wooden ramp, you can't actually walk up that and it just hinders your entire ability to walk forward. That stuff I feel like maybe ironed out, and with that rumor of those coming, it wouldn't surprise me if Season 4 is when that happens as well. And of course, there's always room for other small changes. But there's always that possibility of a new POI. There's always that rumor of the nuke event, the dam bursting, and things like that. And according to players that have apparently paid close attention to it, I can't really say yes or no to validate my own personal experiences here with that, to add or subtract to it. Apparently, there's some more progression in that riverbed where there's a little bit more moisture, there's a little bit more moss, there's a little bit more things that may point to the dam bursting in some capacity, or at least flooding that a little bit so it's a river of even just small sorts. That might be happening. Maybe that dam bursting is something that was previewed since Season 3's launch and the loading screen images that we had here with it, but that's stuff that we'll just have to wait and see. The big ticket item, though, that has been discussed is that of Urzikstan, an entire second map, which I don't know if I'm ready to jump on board with that one just yet, in the sense of it happening with Season 4. I think maybe that could be something that happens later on down the line, maybe something that happens in July. And granted, if we took a look at things comparably timetable-wise for, say, a secondary map being introduced, last year's Alcatraz introduction was introduced at the very beginning of April 2nd of last year, whereas if that is the case, where if Urzikstan does come along later in the year, that again wouldn't be until probably July at some point, so it doesn't really match up here with it, but it is still possible to be coming. But again, that's another big rumor out there that, as it stands, there are of course assets that could work, It's just a matter of if that actually is the case. And really, there's not a whole lot that points to it being a definitive, so I don't really want to say anything on that just yet. But Warzone should hopefully be progressing here throughout the next coming week and a half or so with Season 4, and I'm excited to see what is in store for the mode if that is in fact the case. If we get a new POI, if we get a live event, if we get something that at least just furthers the progression of the Easter egg, I'm curious to see where that all goes. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this here? Are you hoping to see something in particular with the Warzone map in Season 4? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to get connected with my side on YouTube. Correct live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.